and welcome back to After the Table, a TTRPG podcast. 'Tis I, your fantasy-coded villain, Shelly Von Miller. Especially while I'm in drag, I'm very villain-coded. Speaking of fantasy, this episode, we have quite an amazing guest. They are, you know them for their highly celebrated and multi-award nominated AP Castleton. That's right. They also have a special Kickstarter starting today, whenever this episode is released, to raise money for their Castleton Campaign Setting book. I'm very excited. We finally have the GM. Welcome to the table, AJ Winters of Winter's Tales. Hello!
So happy to be here. This is awesome.
Yeah,
I love the introduction, feeling so infamous.
Yes. It's like, yes, we're setting the stage.
Yes.
I like to say that I get it from, there's a drag queen who has a podcast that does, I've explained this so many times on the podcast, but they do their introduction off the top of their head for their podcast guest. And I'm like, I couldn't do that. I have to write it down. But I'm like, I want it to feel like, this is setting the expectation.
We're setting the bar so high. I hope I don't disappoint.
Never.
Okay.
So for those who don't know who you are, and maybe if you've never heard of Castleton, I don't know what to tell you. Introduce yourself. Who you are, who you be.
Sure.
Everything.
I am the infamous and slightly villainous. I'll join you in that villainous train. AJ Winters of Winter's Tales. I run the first D&D studio in Australia. I created Castleton. And I tell story. I make content on the internet that people watch. That's me. Pronouns she, her as well.
Amazing. Oh, that's... I didn't know that you were the first D&D studio in Australia.
Yes. Yeah. I was determined a couple years ago. I wasn't seeing any women at the DM seat, and Australia didn't have a Dimension 20 Critical Role high rollers set. And so I decided, well, I'm going to build it. I'm going to build a studio, and I'm going to DM and be at the forefront of it so that more people are seeing representations of themselves in the media and doing things that they have been told they can't do. And yeah, so I did that. Just so happened to be the first. It was weird.
Yeah, it happens. You know what? If you're not the first, you're the best. Sometimes.
Thank you.
There you go.
Sometimes. Occasionally. On a Tuesday.
Yeah. On a Tuesday. What, I guess, outside of, starting it, what has been some of the obstacles starting a studio that a lot of people who, across the globe can't access, mostly because it's very expensive to fly to Australia. But
yes.
What has that process looked like?
Well, it's been a lot of finances, so I wouldn't recommend it to anyone who's like, oh, we'll just make a studio. It's couple thousand, if not more. I think the studio where we first built it was about 20-30 grand in total with all the gear. Then the next hurdle is scheduling, I guess. We did 8 rounds of casting for our original AP show that we ran on Winter's Tales. And I was very determined to have diversity at the table because I had a lot of my white male friends wanting to be involved, and I said, no, we already have 3 of you. So I wanted to fill the other half of the table with other representations of people and different groups, because the storytelling is better when everyone is bringing their own unique perspectives to a table, or their backgrounds and histories and culture. So I wanted that to be a key part of Winter's Tales from the get-go. And that's sometimes really difficult to do in person, depending on where you're located. So we managed to do that, and I guess that was the fun hurdles. And now it's building up the TTRPG industry in Australia. That's my next goal, because we're about 5-10 years behind the US in terms of TTRPG content. We have an incredible publishing company on the East Coast, Ghostfire Gaming, who has done some incredible things. But other than that, we don't have like an empire of TTRPG here in our country. So I'm working with a few people and trying to move all the chess pieces in the right positions to get it to grow, you know.
That's amazing. Yeah, Ghostfire Gaming is an amazing publishing company. I've been able to see some of the stuff that they put out. I know a few of the people from Chaosium are in Australia, which I thought was I was like, oh, you're in y'all are just everywhere. Okay. Yeah. How has it been kind of working with these other groups, other individuals across the country, and kind of have you worked with them, and like how has the networking and trying to build it all together?
The networking is relatively simple in Australia. We have such a small TTRPG community that means we can all meet up at PAX Australia in October, and there's enough of us to just fill one room sometimes, let alone two. And that's just in the AP space. I've recently joined a community where I am meeting all these people that are self-publishing their own miniature games and board games and playtesting their TTRPG systems and so on and so forth. And I'm starting to uncover a lot more of an industry than is on the surface. Because if you were to name a handful of creators or AP content creators in Australia, you could probably get to 10 big channels, or 10-ish big channels. But now I'm starting to see all these little ones creep up, which is really, really fun. And we also have the Australian and New Zealand Webfest, where now a lot of podcasts are being recognised and AP shows are being recognised there as well, which is incredible. So slowly building, but I haven't worked other than collaborating on, say, like Castleton and other content such as APs with other Aussie creators. Ghostfire Gaming and I catch up regularly with their CEO. We have little talks about like how we want to grow the industry and what the next step is moving forward and stuff like that, because we're like, well, you run a publishing company on the East Coast and I run a studio on the West Coast. Why are we not working together? So it's been fun to sort of strategize there, but mostly it's just the networking side, because we each have our own things that we're doing similar to the US. What I will say is the Aussie TTRPG scene has less drama and less competition. And I think that that's mostly because we have a smaller pool, but also because Australians are a lot more laid back, I found.
Yeah. Yeah. Hey, Americans.
Hey.
How about we not be as competitive? We're all doing, as I like to say, we're all being silly people on the internet.
Yeah, like Dungeons and Dragons.
We're playing Dungeons and Dragons on the internet. We're playing make-believe.
Yeah. But I will say, I think it's a cultural thing. You know, I think Americans get raised with a bit of a scarcity mindset in like schooling and things like that. Competition is a big element in a lot of American movies. I think of any teen comedy or drama, there's always like the competitive need to be head cheerleader plot lines, all of those sorts of things. That's influential. Not to mention that the TTRPG industry in America is directly Hollywood adjacent, you know, with voice actors and improvisers and comedians and actresses and actors. So like that's going to influence the industry on that side of the world as well. That can't be helped. What can be helped is people's attitudes changing. Stop it.
There you go. Point a finger.
I'm going to wag my finger from Australia, all the way from Australia, and say, stop the drama.
Stop it. Stop it. So how did you get into TTRPGs? What's your origin story? What's the background story?
Yes. So, complete accident. My family and I traveled to New York for my dad's work when I was about 16 years old. And we were booked into a hotel in New Jersey by my dad's company, walked through the revolving doors into the foyer and stepped into DexCon 15. Which meant that my nerdy little self I think I squealed. I think I legitimately squealed because I walked in and I saw fauns and fairies and satyrs like running around the lobby. I had never seen or heard of LARPing or even played Dungeons and Dragons, but I was a big fantasy nerd and I loved telling stories and I was in drama in school. So it was sort of everything I ever wanted. So much so that my parents bought me a 3-day ticket to spend the weekend at this convention while they continued on doing all the plans that we were meant to be doing for the actual holiday. And I bought myself my first set of elf ears, joined my first LARP, played my first couple of games of Dungeons and Dragons, bought gear and books and all sorts of stuff. And it kind of just stayed with me for life ever since then, because it was everything I wanted. I will say also my first LARP, I did go a little too much. I was a 16-year-old. I slammed down a tankard of fake ale in front of someone who I did not know, was demanding that they tell me where a certain character was that I had in my backstory and not in the actual plot of the LARP. And this person matched me with the energy and ended up bringing me into their group of friends. And I think we ended up, because they were dressed as a faun, I ended up teaching them how to do Irish dancing while they played their little panpipe in the middle of this LARP, which, again, had nothing to do with the plot lines I was running. But 16-year-old me was like, I am an assassin and I need to find this particular character and I'm going to go crazy with it.
Exactly. I feel like that's a very teen thing to do. Just be like, there might be a plot line. I have my own story to tell. Let's do this.
I think mine was better, I will say. It ended up with us Irish dancing with a faun.
Yeah.
So.
What could go wrong?
Well, yeah. I mean, I made lifelong friends. I still get messages from those people.
That's amazing.
Which is really, really lovely, because I tell everyone whenever I talk about the origin of me finding Dungeons & Dragons, it's that group of people. So I credit them a lot. A lot of them did offer me a green card. They did offer to marry me so that I could stay in the US, which was a little concerning because I was 16 and they were far older than I. But it was never anything sexual or romantic. It was purely because they wanted me to stay in the country and be their friend. So it was very innocent for something that definitely could not have been with a 16-year-old staying in a hotel in New Jersey by herself while her parents flitted off and did their own thing. Could have been an absolute CSI episode if we wanted.
Yes, very much so. It could have been easily just...
But it wasn't.
Yeah.
I just played fairies all weekend.
Let's go. How did you... So you started playing D&D at a con. How did you get into GMing? What was that kind of like through line?
I think the through line was I had to, because no one else was going to play Dungeons and Dragons with me. I didn't have a lot of friends in high school, and I got bullied in primary school, high school, and college. So getting a group of friends together with someone else at the GMC just wasn't something that was going to happen miraculously. I sort of had to make it happen. But I was also the type of person that was writing film scripts and hiring teenagers in my year group to play characters in a fake reality show that I scripted and all sorts of stuff. There was a reason I probably got bullied, and I'm gonna say it's the weird parts of me, and also probably just because I couldn't explain my niche categories of, ADHD-tism mixed with being a passionate storyteller. So I probably came across very aggressive to other teenagers. But I got into the GM seat because I love storytelling, and I've been world building since I was able to speak. It's sort of living and breathing for me. World building is my base state.
How has your world building and GMing evolved since then? Since those early days of bullying people into making videos and playing D&D with you?
I think that these days, I mean, I went to university and I did a double major in creative writing and performing arts. And that, I would like to say that influenced a lot. It didn't. I spent 3 hours a week rolling around on the floor and I got a degree out of it, which was really incredible. But I still use those elements of my degree to this day, which is a miracle to be able to say. I took the lessons of storytelling and my passion for all sorts of things. I worked in reality TV over in Australia for a bit. I did marketing. And it was all of those sorts of elements of my backstory that influence now how I world build and GM. Because I want to create something as an entertainment source rather than just for me to tell my story. And I think in the last couple of years running Winter's Tales, one of the biggest things that has developed my storytelling abilities is my passion for group storytelling, for other people to add to the tale as well, and not just be giving people a story to play in, but also to invite them to create with me and build the story with me, because that's the most fun element of TTRPGs, is collaborative storytelling.
I wholeheartedly agree. I love bouncing off people, and I love, like, even if I'm not even part of the scene, like my character's not part of the scene, just watching people, like, create little stories and plots and everything like that. I'm just like, okay, yes, please, thank you.
Yes, please, more.
More, please. So, okay, you worked in reality TV, which makes so much sense with Castleton. I was just like, oh, that's interesting. It makes so much sense now. So, as I stated, you're the GM for Castleton, which
Correct.
boasts over 120 PCs.
Correct. Yes.
From all over the TTRPG space, not just like AP, but like skit makers and like cosplayers and just content creators.
Podcasters,
and they're from all
yeah.
Podcasters. They're from all over the globe. We've had a few on the podcast. I mean, we had Sachi, Blizz, Laura Tutu, Jian from Girls Run These Worlds, Whitney from aka Smoking Glue Guns.
Love Whitney.
Love. The Playmat, Candace the Magnificent, Jillian Foxglove, and trust me,
Jeremy.
if you go, that's right, Jeremy Cobb as well. I mean, how did you get these people together, and what made you say, yeah, I want to do this like huge sweeping, instead of like breaking it down into like individual campaigns with these people?
Yeah. That would have been
You're
smarter.
like, I'm going to go whole hog and just be like 120 people all at once.
Yeah.
Let's go.
So, well, I did the 48-hour calamity for our second anniversary on Twitch back in 2023, which had 48 content creators over the 48 hours playing back-to-back games, with the premise being we will destroy a world and then rebuild it in 7 games, which I loved the little wordplay, biblical referencing, magic. And coordinating 48 people was easy. So I think I got it in my head that I could do more. And then I invited not only those 48 people, but other people into the realm of this AP project that I was doing. I just posted a video on Instagram talking about the plot, basically saying, hey, I have an idea to mix Bridgerton and the Hunger Games in a D&D setting, and I picture this being huge and all the content creators participating and romancing each other or fighting each other. Let's take the drama of the TTRPG space out of the actual reality and just put it in a fictional AP for a bit, and maybe just all work together for a little while. And within 48 hours, I had 150 people signed up.
I'm pretty sure I was one of them. Pretty sure I was one of them.
Yes. There was so many people, And then we had about 30 volunteers as well who wanted to make art, who wanted to make music, who wanted to help with logo designs. I didn't curate all those people. People came to me saying, we want to help, we want to make this even bigger and even better than anything that you imagined it would become, because I was not expecting 150 people. We definitely reduced that cast a lot because of people scheduling and a few things that happened in the early days with regards to like drama and stuff like that, because people didn't get on with other people that were in the cast, but it then solidified, I think, around 113 for part 1, which worked. And then I wanted to bring in some other characters to complete the story, because we decided to extend it into a part 2 to finish the tale that we were telling, because we couldn't do it in just 9 episodes. And I wanted to also bring in a few more POC players as well. So I started searching for the right people to come and play the extra characters that would be maybe the villains, or maybe a romantic sweetheart of someone, and sort of dabbled in that. And then we ended up with 122, I think.
Is that also including the members that showed up for the finale, or
no? So 122 plus 2 guest stars. Yeah.
Which, by the way, if you haven't seen it, I'm going to spoil it, but I'm not going to spoil the plot line. Persephone Valentine and Iffy Nwabwe are the 2 special guest stars for the finale. And I saw that and I was like, yes. Fitting.
It was a lot of fun.
Fitting.
I wanted to get more... I was in touch with a few more people to come and play the special guest characters at the end of Castleton. But it just got to a point where I was on a train that was moving at a high speed. I could do nothing except keep getting the show done each weekend that it was airing. And so unfortunately we didn't get some of the bigger names, but that doesn't mean that they won't be involved somehow, depending on how the Kickstarter goes.
Interesting.
Yes.
What did you learn from Castleton about the production side of things? Because you had already been doing production with your own APs before that. Like, what?
So many things.
What did that look like?
Well, I learnt how to be a politician really quickly. So one of the key learning lessons, and this was, I think, within the first week or 2 of people signing on, making their characters and joining into the Discord server, which then became hectic in and of itself, because I became a community manager as well as a producer, as well as the GM at the same time. And then because of some of those navigations that we had to do in regards to, I don't want to work with this person, or accusations being thrown of people being unsafe, or people being their values not aligning with something that we should be platforming. There was a lot of things being thrown around in the early days, and little old me was not prepared to be bombarded with all of those, but also I didn't feel comfortable removing people from the production without evidence and without an investigation. And so very, very quickly, I learned how to navigate that space. We ended up bringing in sensitivity consultants immediately, so that anything that came up that could be seen as racist, anything that was going to be like a minefield in regards to social politics, anything like that, I could go to the sensitivity consultants and voice what my plan was and see whether they had any other opinions, because I only have my perspective and my history. I don't have that of others, and I definitely don't have the perspective from Americans, because that was the kicker was, culturally speaking, as a white Australian, I don't have a lot of the experiences that others do. And so I was maybe a little naive, had to immediately learn a lot more than I had prior. And then I had to handle that very delicately and in a way that addressed every issue, made sure that people were treated correctly, made sure that people felt safe. And that was, I think, in the span of 3 days, I had to learn to lead in a way that kept those things in mind. That was the biggest growth I have been through in my entire life. I think I aged about 5 years over those 3 days. Most of those 3 days was spent in tears because I had to make choices that I had never had to make before. I had to be HR for this project. And sometimes that meant, even if one of my friends came to me and said, I don't want to work with this person, so and so they've done this, I would then have to go back to them and said, I believe you because I'm your friend, but I have to go as the producer of Castleton, investigate this, find evidence, talk to the person, get other peer reviews. I can't just take what you have brought to me and remove them from the production, because that is unfair. It ruins people's careers in this space if we keep launching pitchforks at each other and just immediately accepting that that is the truth. We have to handle this as though we are a company, as though we are a production. And so I'm going to go and handle this in this way. And I think some of the friendships that I had at the time were damaged. They rebuilt afterwards, but were damaged at the time because people wanted me to just take them verbatim, do the thing that they asked of me, and I had to separate myself from producer. Biggest learning lesson in the world. And very painful at the time.
Are there plans, I guess, for either other productions or other parts of, like, other seasons of Castleton, if there are any, to bring on, like, a full team of, like, sensitivity trainers, maybe, like, a mitigator for those HR moments, and maybe, like, a community manager and things like that, just so you have that where you are separating yourself from all the aspects of having to take that on?
I mean, I think a little bit of yes and a little bit of no. I do have about 3 APs in the back of my mind that I do eventually want to produce, but I have to go through the Castleton Kickstarter and finish off a few of the other things that I'm working on before I dive into the next one. I've learnt that I won't be doing open calls for players, obviously. That's a big thing. So especially now as well, because we had 122 people in Castleton, if I announce that I'm doing another show, I guarantee that most of those people, if not all of them, will want to be in the next one. So, and I will not be doing another production that is that large. It's really hard to maintain. I definitely sacrificed a lot of myself and a lot of my life, which I don't think people are aware of, and burnt myself out significantly to the fact that I then had to take about 4 or 5 months after Castleton finished this year to not do anything. And then I started working on the Kickstarter because I genuinely couldn't do anything. I'd burnt out so badly from the process of Castleton. But when I do the next AP, auditions are the first thing. And then secondarily, sensitivity consultants are always going to be a thing, no matter what I'm doing. Even in the Castleton Kickstarter book, when we get to the process of writing, I will be bringing on sensitivity consultants because there are always going to be elements that flag for other people that I might not pick up on. So you always want to have a soundboard for things like that. I think a community manager is a great idea because me answering everyone's messages for the first 3 hours of the day every morning for an entire year whilst Castleton was running is not sustainable. There was also a couple of instances where I would say, hey, we're not role-playing in the server. Please do not interact as your characters in the server. And then I'd go to sleep and I'd wake up 8 hours later and people had progressed their characters off-screen in a way that was not conducive to the story and also not safe. So I had mods in the server that were in different time zones that would keep a track of things, but that also wasn't always a guarantee. So yes, community managers, a go-to. But I would never remove myself from the process of being in the trenches of that, especially when running the show, because I don't want to create a hierarchy. I don't want to create a system in which the community managers then have to come to me to dob someone in, and then I have to handle it. I want to still be on the ground to be able to maintain that. But I also think that in any AP, if you're producing or GMing, you should also handle it like HR. I think you need to separate yourself from the person that you are and the friends that you have, and also just be very clear about that before going into a production. But separate yourself from the producer GM version of yourself, because otherwise it just gets a little messy. And friendships can be damaged from that kind of thing, especially when people don't consider it to be a business, because there are a lot of people in the AP space that are doing this as a hobby, and then there is a lot of people in the space that are doing it as a career, or part-time career, that want to make their AP more professional rather than just a group of friends playing Dungeons and Dragons. So be very clear about that going in, I think. And yeah.
I mean, even a bunch of friends, you know, playing D&D on the internet has turned into a business. So it's...
Yep.
It's one of those things, like, yeah, it's also, it's also a safety precaution, because,
yep.
I mean, y'all are telling stories together. You are, you know, spending lots of time either pre-recording or live on camera, being next to each other. So it's just making sure.
And character bleed is such a thing that we talk about all the time. Even the most professional improvisers and actors occasionally have character bleed or don't realize that they do, and then things get tricky that you just have to be aware of. And unfortunately, one of the key elements of Castleton was that it was romance. So there was a lot of safety that we had in place in regards to that. And I had to remind people every time of going, okay, but remember when you're talking to each other in the Discord server, you aren't your characters. You are not your characters, and we are not talking to each other as though you are those characters, because people would do it to the villains. Like, I could write a whole psychology paper on how the Discord server went down, but people would start to place upon those who were playing characters that were a little manipulative or a little dodgy or a little villainous. They would start to project that onto the player in the server, even accidentally, by describing them in those sorts of ways, or saying, oh, well, that's what this character would do. It's like, no, they haven't made that choice. You can't put that on them. But the thing is, when you have so many people in a group chat, people get lost in the source sometimes. So it was just reiterating every step of the way, is going, you aren't your character, especially when players would have a romance within the show, but both of those players had partners and lives. So we had to really stop people from posting, especially in live chat when the episodes were coming out. Oh, these two players have such good chemistry. No. Their characters have good chemistry, because the thing is, the partners of those players are watching the live chat and then getting upset, and then things would escalate from there. There were so many elements that we just had to keep. I had to keep my thumb on the pulse the entire year, and that's another element I think that people don't realize, is how much extra work I was doing to make sure that it was safe for everyone, because it had to be.
That's I guess I do even think about that, of the, like, all the bleed that could happen, not even like intentionally, just like like, oh yeah, this is, you know, these characters are so amazing together.
Yeah. I mean, we see it from, like, the actor that played Joffrey in Game of Thrones.
Oh, that's true. That's very
People
true.
People can't
like,
not
he's
villainize
a little
him.
Shit.
Yeah.
Or, oh gosh, I'm trying to think of, like, other villains. Just people who play villains, and I'm like, this guy's a total asshole. And it's like, no, he just
the characters
plays an asshole on TV. Like,
Yep.
There's a difference.
Yeah. But it infiltrates our mind psychologically speaking. So it's just something that we have to be careful of and remind ourselves of. But yeah, it was rough. It was rough. We did it though.
So yeah, hey, yeah. So you're now helping with the production, or at least putting it on the Twitch and YouTube. Whitney's show.
Yes. Yes.
Wild Magic West. How does it feel to kind of, give the reins, pun intended, over to somebody else, GM wise, on your own channel?
I love it. I realized really quickly during the process of Castleton that I didn't enjoy being the face of the product. I've always dreamed of running Winter's Tales to be a production company, not to be my channel. And so I was very, very clear from the get-go of building Winter's Tales that myself, AJ Winters, and Winter's Tales were separate entities. And so getting the opportunity to be a producer and help someone else's product come to life and their dream and to help them, best outcome for me personally, because through Castleton, people kept putting me on this metaphorical pedestal that I didn't want to be on, because the entire premise of Castleton, or the entire reason they did it, was to prove that no matter the channel size, no matter how well known you were, or if you hadn't even started your AP, we all deserved a seat at the table. We all can step up and tell the story together, no matter where we're at, no matter channel size or how famous, quote unquote, we are. But during the process, people kept putting me on this pedestal of, well, you're AJ Winters running Castleton. You're you're doing this. You're achieving this thing with 120 plus people. And then they would get mad at me for looking down at them from the metaphorical pedestal that they put me on when I was never doing that. I got a lot of people coming to me telling me that they think my behavior, or they thought something that I was saying or doing was me thinking I was better than them. And I don't know how that happened, but I absolutely hated it. And I hated so many people coming up to me with more of a fan or parasocial relationship than I realized when I attended PAX U in November, December last year. So getting the opportunity to produce someone else's content is, not only is it kind of a test for me moving forward, because I would love to be able to do that with other people as well, but it was also just an absolute honor that Whitney allowed me to help, because I ended up sitting her down for a life coaching session where I said, Whitney, if you keep going the way you're going to burn out badly. You run a full-time dice business. You're attending 50 cons a year, so you're traveling all the time in between making all your rocks and selling your wares. And now you also want to start an AP channel. And so I sat her down and I went, Whitney, what's the goal? Remove myself. I'm not pitching myself. What is your goal? What do you want to do? And she said that she wanted to be known for her dice, and she wanted to be known as a great GM. And I went, okay, do you need to do that on your own channel? Do you need to run Smoking Glue Guns, the extension, as an AP channel? Because that is all the background producing, that is all the legal work, that is all the social media. When you've already got a social media that's promoting the dice, then you would have to cross-promote on your socials, and you might lose audience because your audience is only there for one or the other, and so on and so forth. So does it need to be on your own channel? And Whitney went, no, I guess not. Because that's not how Abria Ironguard does it, right? She GMs on other people's channels, and then does 1,000,001 other projects as well. So I said, okay, well, I would be more than willing to help you produce on Winter's Tales, and we'll have contracts and everything will be completely set out ahead of time, and you will get the 50% of the proceeds from all the things that happen within the channel, and then anything that comes to Winter's Tales, most of that will be used to pay the editors and music and anything else that we get. So I'm not really profiting off of Wild Magic West at all, because it's all going to Winter's Tales, which then basically funds Wild Magic West anyway. But we get the opportunity to pay Whitney and hopefully eventually, if we can get some sponsorships for it, pay the players as well, because I love what Whitney's doing. Having this cast that only does a chapter at a time, completely singular, nothing that overlaps necessarily with other groups. So it feels very anthology. I think that's the word I'm looking for, podcast style. And then also every time Whitney putting together these groups has done an absolutely fantastic job with more 50% or more BIPOC percentages at each table as well, which is fucking fantastic. And I would love to see more in the AP space. And yeah, just to be able to help that has been a dream. And then we got to share Best Dungeon Master for the Crit Awards, which honestly...
that's amazing. I was just
Best outcome.
Yes.
It would have been really strange for either of us to win over the other and then be working together as much as we do. And I was so nervous about the Crit Award itself with the concept or the idea that if I won it, then having Whitney GM on Winter's Tales, but also be celebrating that I won the award over her wouldn't feel right to me. I would hate that. And also, I don't want to do that when Whitney is a person of color. It just got a little too icky in my chest. But then also, it would have been really strange to have Whitney come on as GM onto my channel and then be promoting the fact that Whitney is the best Dungeon Master for 2025. And then just sit there being like, well, I did Castleton, but okay, it's fine. Everything's fine. And not have that sort of imposter syndrome hit. So the fact that we got to share the award, best case scenario in the world. So happy.
I was very excited whenever I saw it because I was doing like a live watch with my Twitch chat, and I was just like, yes. I was like, if I had the opportunity to vote for you both, I would have been like, yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yep.
And I think that so many people had that feeling as well. We had so many of our friends and so many people involved in Castleton and outside of Castleton that were genuinely scared of voting for one or the other of us because they were worried that the other person would miss out. So, best case scenario, both of us won. It's perfect. So perfect.
Perfect. What is next for like the production side of Winter's Tales?
Ooh. Well, I have a large AP that I will be producing next year at some point, where it is going to be capped at 70 people. I know that still sounds like a lot, but it is a lot more manageable. And also I know how I would want to go about it, which will be a very different to Castleton story. And I guess I could give you an exclusive since I'm on your podcast.
Yes.
You legitimately leaned forward. That's incredible. Yes, give us the exclusive. So I wanted to do an AP that was going to be vastly different than Castleton. Castleton ended up becoming a lot more PG than I thought it would be, given that there was the Hunger Games element. So the next AP is going to be a dark fae story in a completely homebrewed fae realm. Nothing to do with Dungeons and Dragons. Feywild, completely separate, using backgrounds of folklore in our world from all different cultures, because I'm going to be bringing in other people to help tell the story that can bring their cultural fae stories and history from their countries into the mix as well. But it is going to be dark and horrific. So I'm really excited for that because I've never dabbled into the horror and psychological dark elements.
Yeah, because I don't think a lot of people are like, oh, Feywild, it's fun, it's free. I'm like, no.
Nope.
Fae tales are so messed up. They are so psychologically damning.
Even fairies.
I mean, like, they
kidnap children. Yeah.
They literally kidnap children. They could make you fall in love with a tree. Fall in love.
Yeah.
I mean, if you've never actually paid attention to A Midsummer's Night's Dream,
Yep.
hello.
Yeah, Midsummer is one of my favorite Shakespearean plays, but it is, if you actually look at what happens in that, horrific.
It's horrific.
It's a bunch of fae being like, let's mess with the humans for a little bit. Let's just put our fingers in their stories and puppet them around for a bit, because it's entertaining.
Yeah.
And also I want to fuck over my wife, fae. Yeah.
Who knows?
Fairies are scary. Scary fairies.
Fairies are scary.
So yeah, that's the next AP next year.
Yeah.
And it's going to have months of pre-production because of how we're going to go about it. And I can't give any more information, but it is all going to be, even like the pre-production is going to be pre-recorded and filmed, and everything because we're going into some darker themes, everything has to be very, very well planned and have a long pre-production period, rather than what I did with Castleton, which is get a bunch of people signed up, make their characters, and start recording within 3 weeks.
What are the safety tools that you're going to pull out for this, since it's going to be horror psychological?
So many. I haven't started into the process of this, but I want to also bring psychologists on board. Like, that's how thorough I want to go with it. Because if we're going to tell a dark story, not only are we going to tell that in a way that is good and can get into the depths of the story, but I also want to, at the same time, which is where all the pre-recording is going to come in, I want to at the same time offer people the opportunity to learn how to implement darker stories and darker themes in their own games. So it's going to have a bit of a secondary documentary element to it, where it's like, we are dabbling into these topics. How are we doing that? Should you ever do it? Because the thing is, there are so many dark things that we watch on TV, like I think of HBO shows, but we don't touch them with a 10-foot pole for AP because we can't. People's lines and boundaries and all of that kind of stuff, which is totally 100% respectable, and I'm never going to cross anyone's lines or boundaries. But does that mean that we can never tell those darker stories that might be something that helps us explore different themes and storylines in storytelling? Should we never touch those darker, horrific elements to the Fae? Or do we do it, but in a really controlled and safe environment with psychologists on board, with the ability to have deep pre-chats and after-chats, make sure that everyone in the team is safe and not psychologically impacted by that story itself? I don't know. That's going to be, I guess, the big question with the next one.
Mm-hmm. That's amazing, though. I love the fact that you're bringing in outside help to make sure that everything is safe.
Yes.
Especially with this type of storytelling. So you've mentioned it a few times, and I mentioned it in the intro. There's a Kickstarter. It started today, whenever this dropped, which is October 6th in the United States and October 7th in Australia. It's a Castleton Campaign Setting.
Yes.
What ultimate question, because you've mentioned it several times that you were burnt out because of the Castleton AP. Why? Like,
why am I doing the Kickstarter?
Why are you writing a campaign setting? Why are you doing a Kickstarter?
Well, at the end of Castleton, the AP show, there was a fundraising initiative as one of our stretch goals in the AP show, because people were donating to influence the story, a la Hunger Games audience style, which was very cool. But people wanted a setting book. That was one of the things that was recommended. They went, we love the concept, we love the world building that you've done for this world. We want to be able to play it in our home games. We want a setting book. And that sort of very passionate audience riot that started at the end of the AP was the main influence. I said, well, I've always wanted to dabble into publishing. I've always wanted to do a Kickstarter for a different project. I have 2 other projects bubbling and brewing in the back of my mind that if this is a successful Kickstarter, I could do others. But this one felt so appropriate to piggyback off the hype of the AP show, which meant that when I reached out to my now project manager, Anna, and said, hey, I want to do this. Do you think it's realistic that we get this Kickstarter up and running by the end of the year? And we made 2 calendars with like stretch goals of when things would be due and if we can get it all together either this October, which is now happening and has just now launched, or May 2026. And I said, well, could we try and do October? And if we don't have it ready, we could push back to May. And Anna went, yep, absolutely. Let's get this thing on the road. Let's piggyback off the hype of the show before people forget about Castleton, and we'll go from there. So that was why. But also, I love the world. And I'm so excited to share more of the lore, more of the things that we didn't get to see in the AP with others. And then to be able to see what people do with those characters and those plots and those settings, because that's going to be the most fun element for me of going, here's my work. What do you do with it? Ooh.
What, outside of creating the calendar, what has the ramp up looked like?
Well, the last month has been hectic, mostly with all of the deadlines of things that needed to be ready for the Kickstarter. Because the Kickstarter itself is its own beast, with all of the assets and all of the write-ups and getting it in the right order and making sure everything looks pretty, because if it doesn't look appealing, people won't buy it. And so then it was doing all of that kind of stuff, but we also were coordinating with the fact that we don't have a physical product yet. So all of the items that you see on the Kickstarter page are renderings of what we assume things are going to look like, having coordinated with the potential shipping company and publishers that we're using, self-published and shipped out. We got some samples, or Anna got samples, because shipping them to Australia is hard to do, and then built all the assets to look as though they will look when actually completed, with also the stipulation that we have, you could see on the Kickstarter page, of like, it may not look exactly like this, we're sorry, because this is the estimate, so this is the rough sketch that we got to of what this will look like. So the last month has been putting all those assets together, because the book itself, although we have the preview pages that you can now read as well, the downloadable PDF preview on the Kickstarter page, the elements of the book itself we are going to complete and write over the next year for October fulfillment 2026. So the last ramp up has been just getting this Kickstarter ready and also working with the artists and putting all the marketing together and doing all of that, because that has been a minefield in and of itself to learn what else I need to do. Like, how do I sell this to people? How do I get a larger audience? How do I get more follows on the pre-launch page? How do I... Yeah, it's been a wild journey.
Yeah, I can only imagine. I was like, oh, I have a project bubbling in my own mind that I'm like, oh, I would love to do this. And now, like, talking to other people about their Kickstarters or just, like, their other projects that they're wanting to get people to fund, I'm like, oh, I can't do this by myself. No. I will have to have, like, a whole team.
Yeah.
A whole team.
I recommend having a team. That has been the best part for me, is not doing everything by myself, which I started doing with the AP and then learned very quickly that I couldn't sustain for a year doing 18 different jobs. So getting the team together for the Castleton Kickstarter and being able to bounce ideas off people, but also have people who are experts in areas that I am not, has been a godsend. Anna has been absolutely incredible to work with. Cannot recommend her enough as a project manager. She needs to be hired by everyone immediately.
Who else is on the team? Can you give us a breakdown of who's on the team?
I can. Let me pull up my little images so I don't accidentally forget anyone. So
it happens.
Anna is our project manager. We have Sarah Davies Reynolds as our operation manager. We have Sachi or Vasachiko as our media video editor. Absolutely adore Sachi. She's my work wife. We have Beck Godsey, aka Corsic Phoenix, on as our marketing and project consultant, who will likely join more of the team part-time after the Kickstarter, because she also works like 3 different jobs, so it was hard to bring her onto the team, but having her to be our consultant has been absolutely incredible. Calamity has come on board to do socials and copy editing. We have Whitney, Smoky Glue Guns, as our dice maker vendor for the Kickstarter. So if you want one of the very limited edition dice sets, because Whitney can only make a certain amount of dice over the next year, so get in and get the dice set if you want them. And then we have Emily K. Smith as our lead illustrator, with a team of artists that Emily is sort of building together in the background. And they haven't started working on anything yet, but we're bringing them into the fold as well. Have I forgotten anyone? Oh, and Rin Vixen, my roommate, but also temporary executive assistant, has been doing a bunch of background admin and all sorts of like back-end tasks as well, like creating links and helping with emails and stuff like that. And I hopefully haven't forgotten anyone. But that is our team. And it was really important for me at the get-go, and it was something that I said to Anna when we first talked about it, is that I wanted to attempt to build the team with all femme or non-binary folk, because I wanted to smash down the doors of the TTRPG industry publishing side and do that with an all-femme, non-binary team, and then turn back and be like, what's your excuse? Where's the women in your team? Hey, like, I want to see this more often. I want to see women at the forefront, non-binary folk being heralded for the amazing work that they can do, because I just kept seeing a lot of very successful, and friends of mine, very successful men producing incredible works and smashing Kickstarters with millions of dollars and so on and so forth, but I wasn't seeing any all-femme, non-binary teams do it. So I wanted to do that, and I also wanted to have a good percentage of BIPOC people involved in the project as well for the team.
Hell yes. I love, there's so many people on that list, and I'm like, yes, love them.
They're all incredible. Yes.
Oh,
yeah.
I can't wait. I can't wait. I know it's going to be so fucking amazing. What can people expect from the book itself?
300 pages of everything you want, yes, in a setting book that combines sort of the Bridgerton and the Game of Thrones and the Hunger Games elements into a TTRPG setting. It's a system agnostic, which means you can use it in any system. Campaign setting book. There are fun date locations, romanceable NPCs, all of the fun Regency era. We've got a stretch goal for a guide to etiquette that has been scribbled over by one of the infamous characters, Tabri, who has absolutely no idea about etiquette and made mud tea during the AP series. So that's very fun for me. World lore as well that we didn't get to see in the actual play, so learning about more of the mortal realms and their dynamics and sort of the backgrounds of that, as well as balls, galas, and events to swoon at. But then, because there's the Hunger Game elements, there's also gladiatory pits for fighting people to death to prove one's self in the love game, as well as godly magic items and nasty weapons and horrific demigod bred monsters to fight. And, of course, the in-world gossip column, which we have some of the tiers get a couple of example pages of the Ton Talk, but also we have scandal cards, which we've now added in as something that can influence the game as well. So you can pull a scandal card, and that scandal card could have no one listed on it, so that the GM or the players can assign that scandal to one of the players, or it might list one of the romanceable NPCs, which, in that case, if one of your players is happening to romance that particular NPC, and then they find out that they killed someone in their past to get here or something, then you then have to weave that into your story and have it impact. Even if you assume it's a rumor, things can get fun and scandalous as well. So those are the main things with the book, and I'm excited to sort of dive into that. But I think one of the most fun elements, and I'm really nervous about this to see whether people are going to enjoy it, but one of the most fun elements that I am excited for is that the book is written in first person. It is written by a character that is a demigod who is incredibly biased and likes the matching season. And so they will talk about the more devastating elements of the socio-political economics and hierarchy that works in the world, but they'll sort of also brush it under the rug. Like, oh yes, some of you may die, but isn't that worth it for love? Like, brushing away the more negatory things in order to tell the story. But the fun thing with that is I wanted it to be a book that was entertaining as well as useful. So it is a tool, but it's also a source of entertainment. So you get to read from this female demigod's perspective, and she's very Effie Trinket coded, which I absolutely adore. And so she will give you all of the rundown of how to survive the Castleton. So I hope people will enjoy that little element. And when she doesn't know the information, she genuinely collects research from other people. And so the pages become like articles that she's found to get the information for you kind of thing. Because I wanted it to also be like, I don't know if you had the books growing up, but the wizardology, piratology, there's these tomes that used to sell to kids, and when you opened them, they were very aesthetic, and it was as if people had gotten information from different places, and there was also like envelopes where you could pull things out and read little bio cards and stuff.
We did have something similar. Yeah.
Yeah. We don't have the envelopes in the actual book, but I still wanted the feel of the book to be like that. It was a guide. It is a guide to the world, to how to survive the Castleton, but also, yeah, a GM's guide, a player's guide, and a source of entertainment in one. So I hope people will like that.
That sounds amazing. It's I cannot wait. Can you give away some of the goals, the monetary goals that you'll have for the Kickstarter?
The stretch goals?
Yeah.
Yes, I can.
If you can't, that's okay. I understand.
I mean, they are visible. The first couple of ones are visible on the page. We don't have a huge list because I don't know if people are going to buy the book and if the stretch goals are going to get that high. But if they do, we have a couple of really cool ones that I'm excited for. Let me just bring up the pricing document I've got on the side. So the first couple, we've got the more romanceable NPCs category. So if people are in it for hot people they want to date, we've got 8 new romanceable NPCs as one of the first stretch goals. Tabri's Guide is our second one. So which I love the idea that at a home game, someone could be like, well, I read it in an etiquette book, but the etiquette book is completely wrong. That is so exciting to me as like a role-playing element. One of the other stretch goals is 4 new backgrounds. So we wanted to add in some backgrounds that you could basically use for any TTRPG system, but 4 new backgrounds that are very Castleton specific. So that's going to be one of the stretch goals. Some new monsters, some more badass ones. And then what I'm kind of personally excited for, and I don't know if anyone else is, but our highest stretch goal that we have at the moment is a Castleton cookbook. Because some of the date locations that we have within the book are absolutely freaking fantastic, and so I want to have the ability to basically make some of those meals and recipes from the date locations so that you could cook them for your table if your players were going to go to this particular location or go to a bowl that has these particular drinks, whatever it might be. I was like, yeah, let's do a stretch goal as a cookbook, because that could be fun.
Oh, I like that. Oh no, oh god, we gotta make it happen, y'all. We gotta make it happen. You said some romanceable NPCs. Any of them from the AP, perhaps, mayhaps?
Yes. So we went back to all 120 plus players and asked them whether they wanted to have their character in the book, because legally speaking, they have given us consent to be in the AP, but they didn't sign over like property rights to the character. They didn't make their characters for us to just own, for Winter's Tales to own. So I had to go back to each of them and say, hey, do you want your character to be in the book? And offer them the opportunity to say yes or no. Because to me, it didn't matter if someone came to me and said, hey, actually, no, I wouldn't. I was super respectful for the people that were like, no, I'm actually going to keep the rights to that character and use it for something else. I said, perfect, no worries. But those who have given us the IP, who want to see what other people do with their characters, have signed over the rights to the character so that we can put them in the book. Some of the characters have to be slightly changed because plot lines might have changed, or, you know, if one person in a family dynamic from the AP has given us the permission, but the other family member hasn't, then that person no longer has that sibling, or, you know, the NPCs have to change slightly. But yes, there are NPCs from the AP show. So if there are some that you want to bring into your own home game and see what they do in your game, you can do that. And one exciting thing as well for, I think, the GM tier, the Game Masters tier in the Kickstarter, is that there are also NPC cards. So cards that have the NPC art on them and some bios, so that you could hold it up or even put it on slot it into your DM screen and basically do like a round of the Bachelor, Bachelorette and say, these are the 5 people at this event. Who do you go and flirt with? Which one of these 5 do you want to... Whatever it might be.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah.
You mentioned it prior. This is a system agnostic setting.
Yes.
With like compatibility with like fantasy TTRPGs, D&D, but also Daggerheart? Like...
Yes.
What?
Yeah.
How has that been porting things over to making sure things are compatible with Daggerheart and other games?
Well, luckily, because it's a campaign setting, it doesn't necessarily need a lot of rules, mechanics, and statistics. So that became a really interesting element when planning this and planning out the book, is going, okay, well, how do we want it to be compatible and how do we want to make it that way inclined? So we also do have, with the dice, the ability to get the 2 D12s for the fear element and such with regards to Daggerheart. But mostly what we have done is we have written statistics for monsters and NPCs and so on and so forth in a way that is easily translatable into whichever system you're using. And we do have a fun video coming out from some creators, hopefully in the next week or two, given that this is being aired the day that we launch the Kickstarter. So in about a week or two, we're hoping to get some videos out from some content creators and influencers in the space who are basically going to take one of those monsters or one of those NPCs and translate it into 2 or 3 different systems easily. So you can see, as a GM or as a player, how you can easily plot it in. And basically that just means word choicing, right? So if you have an NPC and it says, oh, they're super charismatic, then you know if you're going to make them as a D&D character, their charisma stat's going to be super high. Like, it's easily moldable, because I want it to be as simple as you pick this up as an entertaining book to read from the writer, the demigod writer that has made it, and you go, ooh, I want to use this in my game as this. You could also do it completely, like take something from the book and use it in your own game, like a magic item or a date location or whatever, without having to run Castleton. But you could also just do a whole Castleton story. So it's kind of whatever you want to do with it, which I think was super vital, super important for me when I was planning this out is I want people to be able to do what they want to do with it rather than have to lock into something.
That's amazing. Oh, I can't wait to get it in my little hands. I'm backing it. Probably whenever this is aired, I've already, the thing's already happened. I'm like, yes. The backer number probably 30 minutes after it happens. It's just like backer number 150. There you go.
Well, I think that is the most exciting part to me is I'm nervous about the Kickstarter because I don't know if people are gonna want this product, but I do know that the people that do want this product want it badly. In the sense that I just don't think that they're going to be able to choose any of the lower tiers because they're going to want to get all of the things. Like, we have a deluxe tier with the limited edition book cover. And I've talked to so many people about it, and they've gone, well, I want the limited edition one. I went, well, okay, yes, but you might have to budget for that. That's one of the higher tiers because it's the deluxe set. Like, that comes with everything. So, I don't know. It's gonna be interesting.
Well, it's a romantasy book, essentially. Are we getting sprayed edges as the kids? I don't know. People get the deluxe edition, they get, like, sprayed edges and things like that. That was, like, I don't...
Well, the deluxe edition is going to be tactilely so fun, because that's what I love. I love a hardcover with, like, embossed elements and shine and, texture. Literally, Anna and I have sat down and been feeling different paper cards and going, fun. Which one do we want? Because I got a touch of the tism, or I'm autistic, so I shouldn't just be like, I've got a touch of it. No, I am. And I love texture. Like, everything I own has a feel to it. And so it was really important to me that when people get their hands on these products, it also feels good. And the deluxe book was my big dream of going, yeah, we have the standard hardbook purple back cover, which I am so excited for. And I love the design from Emily. But the deluxe book is going to be like the thing you just want to hold in your hands and place on a book stand in a library with lights directed at it and all sorts of stuff.
Yeah.
So I hope people like it, and I hope people want it, and hopefully it doesn't break people's budget too much to get the deluxe book and so on and so forth. So we'll see.
Well, we'll see. Well, on that note, tell everybody where they can find you, where they can find the Kickstarter, how long the Kickstarter is going to happen, and everything like that.
Yeah, well, you can find anything to do with Winter's Tales on all the social platforms and all the subsidiary platforms at Winter's Tales Co. We have Patron, we have Ko-Fi, we have all the things, and it's all the same name. You can also find me if you want to see my shenanigans, because I am a separate entity to Winter's Tales and am currently on a journey of watching every Star Wars piece of content ever made back-to-back in chronological order in order to earn my lightsaber at the end of the year. So if you want to come on that journey, you can follow me on all social platforms at AJ Winters VO. But the Kickstarter is launched today, and is going to conclude at midnight PST on October 30th, I believe. So you've only got until the end of the month. It's a 23-day short Kickstarter.
That is short. Usually people are like a month. And okay.
Yeah, less than a month, but we wanted it to be something that drives people to purchase if they want to purchase. And also it's around the times we sort of ran it around when people usually get their paychecks, to make it the most convenient for people as well. So that's all part of the strategy of only doing a 23-day
Smart.
Yes.
Smart.
Yeah.
Heck yeah. Well, you can find all those links down below in the show notes. Speaking of finding people on the internet, you can find me everywhere on the internet at Shelly Von Miller, because branding is important. And yada yada yada, something. Get your mind right or something. I don't know.
Outro. Build it yourself.
Yes, exactly. Speaking of, you can find me on Patreon and Fourth Wall memberships, where you can get early access to the podcast and behind the scenes stuff, and patron exclusive segments like table sets, which we're going to go record right after this. Paid tiers start at $7 a month, and it goes to helping a content creator make content on the internet. Yay. There's so much stuff over there, y'all. Trust me, it's worth it. But with that being said, I love you guys very much, and I will see you on the internet. Goodbye.